Everybody. I'm Beatty and welcome again, my friends, to the Ask Beatty Show. I chose this theme song. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. We certainly need it more now than ever before. And yet it seems to be something that is so difficult for people in their personal lives, in our political lives, in our professional lives. And yet, in the final analysis, it's not about the more and the better and the riches and the money and the fortune. It really comes down to connection and love. And that's what really makes people happy in the final analysis when we look at all of the things that are really, really important in our lives. Well, I'm Beatty Conrados, and I am a psychotherapist, and I'm also a sex therapist, and I'm the author of the groundbreaking book on relationships, For Better, for Worse, Forever. Discover the Path to Lasting Love. And for the last almost 13 years, I have been hosting the Ask Beatty show here on the Progressive Radio Network. And I know that every really week I say this, and I hope that there is some little thing that I say during the show that can really make a small difference, hopefully a bigger difference, in your life, because the show is about empowerment. It is about encouraging and motivating and inspiring you, really all of us, to do whatever it is that we need to do, not just think about, not just dream about, that will really improve the quality of our lives and our relationships. And I have to tell you that I really appreciate all of you who tune in every single week. I know that you have a lot of other options, to listen to with podcasts and radio shows and television shows. And I am really appreciative. And one of the things that I wanted to mention to you, if there is a particular issue or a particular subject that you would like me to tackle on the Ask Beatty show, you can easily contact the Progressive Radio Network directly, or you can go to my beattycohen.com website, where you'll be able to find all the contact information. So what do we talk about here on the Ask Beatty show? Well, of course, we talk about mental health, and we talk about relationships, and we talk about sexuality. And, it's about how do we go about empowering ourselves? And the reality is, of course, is that we all go through so many ups and downs in our life, and we can't change our history. We can't change anything that's happened, even a couple of seconds ago. But one of the things that I have really found to be true as a psychotherapist and sex therapist, and just a woman, a mother, and a wife, is that when things are off track, as they invariably become for most of us, really for all of us at different stages of life, we need to be willing. And that's really the thing, that we need to be willing to acknowledge and address and resolve as best as we can the things that continue to get in the way of our life and our relationships. And I was talking to a patient just a couple of hours ago, and we were discussing her marriage. And the couple, they've been married for almost 40 years, and yet the original problems began even before they tied the knot. And yet what happened was is that you tend to look the other way, and you make excuses, and you don't like confrontation. And unfortunately, most of us, we never learn to have great emotional communication and problem solving skills. So here you have a couple, and I see this invariably, with couples, is that the problems have been long-standing problems that have really never ever been dealt with. And then, invariably, there is going to be an explosion of some kind. And in my private practice here in New York City and also in East Hampton, the explosion typically, I would say with 90% of the couples that I work with, is an extramarital affair. And people are then looking at themselves and they're saying, well, how did this happen? And then when couples start to really talk about what did and didn't happen years and years and years ago, before the affair, they're really able to acknowledge that there was a lot of unfinished business. There were a lot of issues, whether it was the children, whether it was sex, whether it was money, that were never, ever, ever discussed. And this is why I encourage all of you, whether or not you have your own individual issues with people or family members, or whether you happen to be in a relationship, when things start to get off track, it's just so important to be willing to check in and to have the how are we doing conversations. And I think that people need to do this on a very, very, very regular basis. Otherwise, like this woman I was talking to earlier, my patient, 40 years went by and they never, ever really dealt with the fundamental problems that were going on in their relationship before they decided to get married. And this is where denial and avoidance and blame and self-blame, it really takes us off a constructive path. So I'm asking you, like today, are there people in your life that you need to have the conversation with, whether it is an adult child or a partner or a colleague or a friend, where you're finding that weeks go by, months go by, and perhaps even years go by, where there are underlying issues that are really getting in the way of your relationship and maybe even your mental health and your physical health as well. And again, even though we can't change what did and didn't happen, today might be a really, really good day to call someone and say, there's some things that I would like to discuss with you. And in the best possible world, I would suggest that you don't do it online if possible, and that you find a time and a place where you can sit down and have some real conversations. And that is the way that relationships really work, where we're able to have healthy relationships, where there is ongoing communication and where there is ongoing problem solving. And this is the thing about mental health. And of course, May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's the same kind of thing that I see with people who I treat, who are contacting me with issues like depression or anxiety or substance abuse of various different kinds, or issues that really stemmed from their original family of origins, including sexual abuse, early child sexual abuse, sexual assault, is that I think that we have maybe a hope within ourselves that somehow the problems are going to really disappear on their own. And it would be great if we could just wave a magic wand, and the angst and the upset and the anger and the depression and all of the things that do tend to get in the way of our life and relationship, that they would just magically, magically disappear. So, again, what I encourage all of you to do is, if you are suffering from depression or anxiety or any issues that you're finding are really playing havoc with your life and your relationships, I think it's great if you have friends and great if you have family. And it's wonderful, of course, if we exercise and do yoga and that we eat well. But despite all of this, if there are still lingering things that are really ruining your days and really perhaps ruining your relationships, I really, really recommend you're reaching out and getting some great professional help. And it can really make all the difference in the world. And unlike the patient of mine, who's waited 40 years to reach out and get some help, it makes all the difference if we, make the decision sooner than later to deal with things that are really interfering with our day-to-day happiness. So I hope that I have convinced you. So whether or not it is a relationship issue or whether or not you are struggling with a mental health problem, including depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or a substance abuse problem of various different kinds, that you will think very, very seriously, and not just think seriously, but that you will be willing to actually take some action, really take some action. And every week, of course, I have my How Are You Doing segment where, I'm asking you to take an honest look at your mental health and your relationships. And hopefully you are in a job that you feel that there is a purpose and that it is fulfilling. And perhaps if it's not, then what is the plan? What is the plan for you to maybe make some changes in your professional health? And when it comes to our physical health, I mean, this is another thing. Are you taking good care of yourself? And what that means, of course, is getting sufficient sleep and eating well and exercising. And I know that we all know this because there's never been so much focus and attention on mental health and physical health. And yet I was looking at statistics, and the United States, we are not doing so well. We're not doing so well in the world of happiness. In fact, we are number 24 in the world. And we're looking at issues like depression. And of course, what we've been hearing more and more about is that our kids are really, really struggling. And here again, early intervention, whether it is for us as adults or whether it is for our children in schools, early identification and early intervention makes all the difference in the world. So I wonder right now, how many of you are thinking, okay, I've been putting off dealing with my physical issue. I've been putting off dealing with my relationship issue or my depression or my anxiety. But today, I'm going to do some research, and I am going to find myself a qualified, experienced therapist who can help take me over this hump. And for so many people, the hump has been around for a long, long, long time. I found a really interesting article today that I wanted to share with you. And this is from a psychology post. And it was a review of 1,039 studies. So it wasn't 1,039 people, it was 1,039 studies that indicate that exercise can be more effective than counseling or medication for depression. Now, I'm not suggesting if you happen to be on antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication that you get off the medication, but I think that this is a really, really interesting study. And I want to read you what was written. While traditional treatments such as therapy and medication can be effective, our new research highlights the importance of exercise in managing these conditions, certainly as an adjunct. If you need to be on medication, don't beat yourself up. But the exercise component, of course, is so very, very important. So here they have a recent study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed more than 1,000 research trials examining the effects of physical activity on depression, anxiety, and psychological distress. So what did it show? Well, it showed that exercise is an effective way to treat mental health issues and can be even more effective than medication or counseling. So what did they do? They reviewed 97 review papers, which involved 1,039 39 trials. And I mean, this is a big study here, a big sample. It was 128,119 participants. And what did they find? They found that doing 150 minutes each week of various types of physical activity, such as brisk walking, lifting weights, and yoga, significantly reduced depression, anxiety, and psychological distress compared just to the usual care. And the largest improvements, and this is self-reported as well, were seen in people with depression, HIV problems, kidney disease, in pregnant and postpartum women, and in healthy individuals, though clear benefits were seen for all populations. And what they also found, which I think is really interesting, that the higher the intensity of the exercise, the more beneficial it is. For example, walking at a brisk pace instead of walking, at a slow and usual pace, and exercising for 6 to 12 weeks has the greatest benefits than shorter periods. Long-term exercise is important for manufacturing mental health improvements. So I was curious, and of course the study was really curious, how much more effective. So when comparing the size of the benefits of exercise to other common treatments for mental health conditions from previous systematic reviews, their findings suggest that exercise, and this is really significant, that exercise is around 1.5 times more effective than either medication or cognitive behavioral therapy. So in the short term, this helps boost mood and buffer stress, and long term, the release of neurotransmitters in response to exercise promotes changes in the brain that help with mood and cognition, decrease inflammation, and boost immune function, which all influence our brain function